Everyone to episode number 11 of the Stay Attached podcast. We are joined by the living legend, the man who has done it all in Call of Duty, and the man who actually taught everyone how to play competitive Call of Duty, OpTic Rambo Ray. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me, man.
I'm excited to have you. You've been through it all as a player, a caster. You were a game developer for a little bit at Sledgehammer, right?
For 6 years, more than a little
Wait,
bit.
6?
Yeah, I was there for 5.5 years, brother.
I didn't even
from like late 2014 to February of the first CDL year, which is like 2 years ago. So yeah, I was like almost 6 years.
Wow. Wait, I did not know you were there. I feel like it flew by like very quickly.
Everyone's life flies by, so yeah.
It's true. But now the coach of OpTic Texas, and things are looking real good for this season for you guys. I feel like you guys have been frying recently. But
we fried last year before the season started. That didn't mean much, so
yeah, that's
I'm
true.
not getting my hopes up.
That's true. You always got to show up to the real tournaments and do it.
Oh yeah.
But I mean, you guys still had a pretty successful year last season. Like, you didn't win an event, but you're always top 2, top 3, so that's still good. But I mean, of course, everyone wants to get first every single tournament.
Of course, that's the goal.
Yeah. But enough talking about your teams and your players that you coach now. Let's talk about you as a player and just as a person. When you were younger, when did you first start getting into gaming and like Call of Duty, really?
So video games, actually my grandma got me into video games. She was a huge Pac-Man / Mario on the NES, which is one of the earlier console. I was like 4 or 5 playing. I played a lot of sports games growing up. The kind of skipping forward, I got a PS2 and I had the online adapter, and I played this game called Black Hawk Down, Delta Force, which was the rival off the movie. But surprisingly, that game was very much like Call of Duty. It was almost like an early stage Call of Duty game. You could jump shoot. People would drop shot, you had grenades. It was like very military-esque. Like, it was basically COD before COD almost.
Yeah.
And yeah, I was a huge fan of that game. I started playing Call of Duty in 2007. I played the COD 4 beta. I didn't really play the COD 2 or COD 3 that much. COD 4 is kind of when I got into it. And yeah, I mean, I grinded, just played. I was always a competitive person in anything I do in life.
Yeah.
And when I found about game battles actually on Black Hawk Down, which was like 2006. It's kind of cool, actually. It's almost like a cool little badge to have. Like, if you go to my GB profile, it shows when I joined the website, and it's like way before everyone else joined.
Yeah, you're OG.
Kind of cool. Yeah. So yeah, I played COD 4, and then I mean, the history tells itself after that.
So did you join game battles when it was SOCOM battles? Because wasn't it that formally?
No, I think I joined literally right after that.
Okay.
Changed. I think they changed it I think it was like November or December of the year. I joined in January. It was like probably a month or 2 before I joined.
Yeah. And then you learned about like competitive gaming, and you were just a competitive person, like you said. So what really made you did you ever always want to be a professional COD player, or did you kind of just start playing these tournaments, meeting some people, doing really well? And then like, what was your goal with this game at the time?
Yeah. I mean, like, making money or even just going to the craziness of like making a living playing video games was never a goal. I honestly, like, at the time where we were doing it, there wasn't really much opportunity for it. I think the Halo guys had like a chance to do it, but even then it was very few guys who were like actually making a decent living doing it. And yeah, I found about tournaments. I was just like, I started playing for a little cash here and there, played game battles tournaments, like the kickoffs and all the grind was more about passion and just winning trophies and being at the top of the ladder at the time I started playing.
Yeah.
But where it really changed into a career for me is when I actually got sick. I had a digestive parasite in my stomach for like almost a year and a half.
Ooh.
And all I could really do in my time is I would just play video games because it really took my mind off of it. And my parents were cool with it. So, and then while I was doing it, I started making money doing it. And it was like, oh, well, look, I can sustain doing something I really love. Not that I was going to make a ton of money doing it, but at the time it was enough to kind of go by and live by. And I was having fun doing it. So my parents were cool. And when it really kind of turned into careers when me and my team won the Call of Duty, the COD 4 National Championship in 2009. Came back home with a check, and I showed my dad, saw the pictures, and he saw me. They were super into it. They're like, this is awesome. Like, is there a chance for you to do more? I was like, hell yeah, there is. So
yeah,
that's kind of when it like took off for me as a career.
Wait, how much was that check for back then?
It was the tournament. Actually, this is a funny story. I like telling this one. The tournament first prize was $8K for the team, which is $2K each.
Yeah.
And on top of that, I was Canadian. Which at the time, which you still do if you don't have a visa, but gaming is considered gambling. So I lost 30% of my winnings at the border for being Canadian, and then I lost another 8% to California state tax for winning. So I came home with a $1,200 check, and my flight to go to the event was like $800.
Ah,
So past, like, thank God Ego the Icon was like sponsored hotel room, but like past my personal expenses, taxis to get in from the airport, I basically broke even my first event winning. So
yeah.
things a lot different now.
Yeah, slightly, very slightly different. But who were your teammates and like your team you were playing on back then? Do any of them still play today?
Yeah, so Big Timer is probably like the main
Mm,
guy. I mean, most people know who Big Timer is.
yeah,
Me and
of
him
course.
kind of we played game battles tournaments together in like 2000, like early 2008. So we kind of grew. We went into like the pro scene together, if you want to say.
Yeah.
I mean, and my other two teammates for that event were Sharp and Dodgers. A lot of people don't know about Dodgers, but Dodgers was basically, I like saying he was a scump before the scump.
Mm.
He
He was
was
just
like
that
this young
good.
phenom. Just he was 13 years old. So like there
13.
wasn't an age diff, like the age barrier wasn't a thing when I first started competing. So I was 19. I was either like just turned 19 or late 18s when I had my first event. Big Time
Mm.
was like a year before, or year younger than I am. Sharp was 15, and then Dodgers was 13. So I won my first event with a 13, 15-year-old. And yeah, it was crazy. It was just a really interesting experience that turned into a career.
Yeah. And that was with your team, like IXI, right?
Yeah, it was extravagant icons. Like
Extravagant icons.
probably the coolest logo,
Yes,
the
the
coolest
snake. It
team
had
logo,
the
the
yellow
snake around
snake.
the X. Oh, it
Oh
was
my
so sick,
God.
bro.
I
I wish
love
I could bring that one back.
Yeah, no, that logo was so sick. And I think actually way back then I was on the phone with someone I met through Xbox that lived in like Massachusetts or something, and we were watching that event, that live stream together while we'd on the phone. And I was just like, I just remember watching that. It was just so cool back then. It was so cool to me seeing people like go to a in real life play a tournament against each other. I'm like, wow, I want to do that one day. That looks really fun.
The LAN
Um,
event just changed it so much, dude. Like I mean, all of us. I mean, I'd say most of us grew up watching Halo. At least the guys who
yeah,
kind of played at that time. Like we thrived to be Halo pros. Like that was kind of it. Like every time I went to the States, I would turn the USA channel on and it'd be Walshy killing people on midship in Halo 2, and they were just
yeah,
like showcasing these cool events. So like when we actually went to the LAN, the first thing we learned at the event was that the finals were gonna be playing on the Halo main stage, which was like, oh my god, like it's almost like the church of like gaming. Like it was where it should happen.
yeah.
So that was definitely like the coolest gaming experience that I had at the start of my career.
Back in those days, you're at the event. I'm sure the Call of Duty side wasn't too big. Like there's probably just a
Oh,
few spectators, a couple chairs. I think there was probably more players there than staff, spectators, and everything. And of course, the prizes were super low. But did you ever see it like way back then, getting it to this point, or when did you think that like this can be a sustainable career for you?
um, I don't think it happened early. I mean, like even the first few events we had, they were like invitational based on the online season that we had. So like
Mm.
for COD 4 and Modern 2, we played like these things called PCLs, Pro Circuit Ladders, and we had like three of them during the COD 4 season, and we had six of them technically on Modern 2 because we play on Xbox and 360. So like we showed up to the event and there was like literally I think two teams didn't show up, so it was like six teams for each of the first two events, or at least the first one. Maybe there was more than that the second year. But yeah, for me, I honestly think Black Ops 2 is when I saw it. Like this is gonna blow up. Like
Yeah,
this is something I really want to stick to. Like not that I wasn't gonna stick to it. Like I was doing well for myself because I was doing YouTube videos and I was streaming on Twitch at a time where not a lot of people did it.
yeah,
So like I was kind of one of the top streamers on COD when I was streaming when Twitch first came around. It was Justin TV before that, and they give us the ability to make money off ad revenue. And we always had like we grinded, so like I would turn my stream on every day for like 6-7 hours playing like these 360 icon tournaments
yeah.
or game battles tournaments or just ladder matches, and I would typically get like 1,000 or 2,000 viewers at the time,
Damn.
which was a lot for what it was.
Oh yes, that's
And I
still
would
good
run
today.
these. Yeah, I would run ads for like every half hour, and I would make. I'd say on average I made like two and a half, $3,000 a month, depending on the month where the ad revenue was,
Yeah,
and like that was plenty for me to live on. Like I wasn't really like my expenses weren't very high. I didn't
yeah.
really go out. I would just play video games. So yeah, it was. But yeah, Black Ops 2, I'd say like the grander scheme of Black Ops 2 champs is really when I saw this. Like yeah, this is something where the whole Call of Duty world, not just professional, like the community of YouTubers, the organizations just came along as one, and just we had such a big like unified event that everyone just kind of got into, and the viewership was incredible. So that's when I first saw like the potential that I think we had as a community to grow to what we are now today.
Yeah, and at the Black Ops 2 COD Champs, is that the first event where I know you got second there, and that was that the most money you ever made from an event up
Oh,
until that point?
100%. Oh yeah, I mean it was 50K each for second for a weekend's work. So
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible for sure.
How did like it feel to make that money and then to even see like the first place team make a lot of money too? You're like, wait, this is actually like a real sustainable thing. Like it must have changed yours and like everyone's outlook on it because you're like, wow, I could definitely do this now. So
I'll be completely honest. As a player, I think until like my last year in Ghost, I think that's the first year where I actually started thinking about the money, because that's a year where I was like kind of started thinking about life in
yeah,
general. Like, where do I want to go? Like, am I trying to buy a house? Like, I moved to the States and lived at the enemy house during that time. And I kind of saw like it's almost like I almost turned into an adult that year. But before that, I'll be completely honest, like money was never like this thing. Like, I didn't really care for it.
yeah,
As long as I had enough to go on to what I needed to do, which is live in an apartment, have my internet, and have my gaming set up. The money was just kind of bonus. I would save it. I wouldn't really do much with it. It was just kind of
yeah,
sitting there.
yeah,
And like I think just the mentality of the community in general was more passion based than a little bit what we are seeing today. Like obviously it's turned into like a very much business. I'm not saying that it wasn't back then, but like I'd say like the general mindset of players was more passion based. Like I love doing this, and I can do this sustaining myself. I'm gonna focus on my craft.
yeah.
Now it seems like it's a lot more of a like I'm not gonna a hustle maybe is a big word, but players are definitely thriving to like make coin.
Oh yeah,
This year.
definitely. Because I mean, back then, like a lot of the times, unless you were at the top of the top as a pro player, you had to pay for your flight, you had to pay for your
Yeah.
hotel, pay for your food throughout the whole weekend, your team pass, and you had to hope your teammates even showed up to get there. So if
Yeah,
you weren't
very
like
different.
the top of the top pro players, you weren't sponsored, you weren't getting all this good treatment. Well, the good treatment for back then, which was good.
It was hotel and flights. Like I
Yeah,
mean that's like I've never personally had a contract with monthly like money.
yeah,
Like I think I stopped like the year before that really started. I think Ghost was like the
hmm,
last year where players weren't doing that, or orgs didn't start doing that.
yeah. I think I
Like
just got. Oh, go ahead,
I
go
mean
ahead.
I was at the top of the top when I played for a couple of years, like for I'd say 4 or 5 years, and like I never got more than flights and hotel. So yeah, kind of tells you what it
Missed
is.
it by a little bit for sure. Because I think you definitely wait. Did you ever get a Were you streaming on MLG.TV? So did you get like a deal with them
No,
for a little bit? Oh no.
no. No,
Okay.
I think that started. It might have started. I can't remember it. Maybe that was the thing while I was playing, but I never like. I don't think I ever took a deal. Like I was doing pretty well for myself on Twitch. I don't think. At least I never got an offer to switch. So maybe
Yeah.
that was right before, maybe right after I stopped. I don't know. Hard to
Yeah.
tell.
And then looking back on your career, all the teammates and teams you have, do you have like a favorite team that you just love and look back on? You're like, wow, I miss those days with those guys.
I think it's hard not to look back on my Modern 3 team with Scump, Merc, and Big Timer. I think in terms of like a team that gelled in and out of the game well, and we never really like. I mean, we won a lot, obviously, so that probably helped facilitated the argument side of it. But it's just a roster that I felt like we were all confident in each other. That there was never a moment where we doubted, and we thrived as a team in and out of the game. Like we were just fun people to be around, and we were just always vibing. And obviously, winning helps,
Yeah.
but I'd say like that team, or maybe the version with JCap, Big Team Merc and JCap for
Mm.
I think that was Modern 2, and uh, that was the Black Ops 2. That was before that. Modern 2, and what was the game? Black Ops 1. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah, I picked the team with Scum too. I mean, JCap, he's alright. Scum's way cooler for sure. For
I
sure.
mean, dude, like in terms of like I always thought myself as a player that's hard to deal with when I played, but like with the right people, the people that had the same mindset, like it was so easy.
Yeah.
And I felt like Jake, like I would literally consider my teammate bucket like Scump, Big T, Merc, JCap were like the four teammates that I'd never had issues with. Proof was in that bucket for a good amount too, but I had more issues on a personal level with Proof on the how to play the game. But those Florida guys, like it was just seamless. Like
Yeah.
we all knew what it took to win and what to do to win, and we just do it. It was just such a selfless experience that when we had arguments or discussions, they were easy to solve because we just all saw eye to eye on it.
Yeah, and I think that's still so important to this day because I'm sure there's players and teams who really can't get past certain like arguments and discussions, and that could just break the team down, tear it apart. So the fact
Oh yeah,
that you guys were like that way back in the day is kind of insane, and it goes to show like why you guys were dominating in well Black Ops 1, MW3, and then in
yeah,
MW3
we did well.
they didn't have any NA lands, right? It was all like in
We had
Europe.
we had the UMG Chicago land at this
Oh yeah,
like halfway through the year, but yeah, no, for the most part, like we were we were definitely the I would say the most playing team from NA. There's a few teams that went to the last event or two, I think Fizzer. I think Team Fears. There's a Fizzer, Killa, John.
Assassin.
Ah, was it? Yeah, it was probably Assassin actually. Yeah, he was still playing back then. So I think those four came to the last two EGL, and then the last EGL Envy came was like Nate Shot, Stainville. I can't remember the other two players. I think Dito was there, but yeah, we had like 4 or 5 NA teams at the last event. But yeah, for the most part, we were like the main NA team playing.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, that must have been crazy because like when I was trying to come up in MW3, I was like, "There's no lands to even go to, so why am I even playing?" And then
which kind of sucks because at the time, the EGL 5, the first event we went to, had like 100 teams show up to that event. It was like the biggest local you've ever seen in your entire life.
yeah,
It was massive, and it was such a cool experience because like it was just basically only COD. It was in a recluse area where there's really nothing else to do. I mean, Blackpool. No offense to Blackpool, but it's not the coolest place in the world. We had like the hotel, we had like 2 restaurants and like a 7-Eleven kind of thing down the street, and that's about it. So like everyone was just hanging out at the venue talking. There was these like they had like an old school like video game area that people would just go and chill and play. And there's still like videos on YouTube of that of us doing that stuff. It was a blast. It was really like it felt like a community driven event that went on from like Saturday morning at like 8 a.m. and finished Sunday night at like 2 a.m. It was wild.
So speaking of events, what would you say is like you look back on as your favorite event you've ever played at or just attended?
I'd say there's 2 that come to mind. I'd say Black Ops 2 Champs was probably like the coolest event I've been at because of what they represented for our community and what it represented for like just COD esports in general. It was such a like different event. We had 32 teams around the world come out and play in a competitive setting. I mean, obviously the Modern 3 event, which was like
The XP?
yeah, XP was kind of like a contest that turned into a tournament, and they played like a beta version of the game with all the stuff unlocked. Or which was like they played with like it was TD. I mean, it was basically not really a competitive event. They made it a competitive event, but Black Ops 2 is really to me like the big first one we had, and it was just crazy because like everyone again like a community just came together as one. Like T Martin, who was a huge YouTuber back then. I remember Tucker Jericho was there. Like I met so many like guys that were like super into it that I didn't think were. And that helped drive what we had going. Like they were making videos about it and super like it was just super cool in general. And I'd say the favorite event I've played, at least my favorite experience playing wise, was probably the Columbus Black Ops 1 event. My first event back from being sick. The tournament that we won, making it create like a good loser bracket run was cool. And
who was your roster for that? Was that the one with JCap?
Yeah, that was JCap Merc Big T. Yeah, I remember we went into pool play. We lost to Apathy, one of Apathy's first ever event. They came from I mean, that was a time where we were like had a pro bracket, and then the amateur tournament could come out and play and get into the pool play for pros. And we lost to the amateur team, which was Apathy's team, which was super cool because I thought they were incredibly good players. It was like Apathy, Too Quick. Man, I forgot the names of the 2 other guys, but they were a really good team. And they made us start in a loser bracket. So we made a run. We played like Envy, then we played a bunch of our teams the next day. We basically played from like, I think it was 9 a.m. to like 6 p.m. on Sunday to win the tournament, to win the event, which was a dope experience.
Yeah, you're just running on fumes at that point. Just straight adrenaline every time you're up on that main stage.
It was sick, dude.
And I'm sure you could like break this down because you're a coach now. You were a player, and you were always known as like a very smart player, if not the smartest player that taught everyone everything. What would you say is your strongest attribute?
From a player standpoint?
Yeah, you can do player. Yeah, just player standpoint.
Yeah, I mean, from just the playing stuff, like, I mean, I won't admit, people gave me a lot of shit for my skill. I obviously wasn't the best, but I don't think I was the worst. I did get turned on a lot, which I was known for. I had my moments, but realistically, like, I think my awareness is really what made me the player I was, and my ability to communicate to my teammates. Like, I was almost a coach when I played, and I was almost like the in-game leader thing. Like, I definitely think I kind of thrived in that sense where, like, in the game, I wouldn't necessarily focus on what I was doing at times. Then to me, that's why I lost some of the fights that I probably shouldn't lose.
Yeah.
I was very much looking at my mini map and trying to direct traffic for my team so that we're always at the best position to do what needed to be done for us to win games. And in that sense, I think that's really what helped my teams that were on the same page, where I didn't have players that would like argue with it. Just be so good because we were never really in bad situations. Like, it would take another team to, like, we were the team that would win games getting outslayed by like 5, 10, 15 kills in a time where people thought killing was everything.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the rotational stuff, like just bumping teammates. Like, I was being in positions that are conducive to what's going on the map was that really what I thrive for my team to be. And that's why like even in the bad moments of my career, I was never like placing outside top 4, top 5, because it was just so hard for us to do that because we
Yeah.
were just playing the game better than anyone else was.
Yeah, because I mean, even if you're in the advantageous spot and you're whiffing your shots, most of the time you're still gonna hold that map
Yeah.
control, get the points, whatever it may be. So I mean, that's just like great fundamentals, and it just makes the game easy on you and your teammates because it's the most stressful thing when it's just a hectic free for all in like a hard point or something, or back then like a domination or a CTF when everyone's just running around like with like a chicken with their head cut off. It's
Yes.
definitely very, very stressful, and it even happens today. So,
There was a
uh,
lot of that back then. They're running around with a chicken head cut off. Like a lot of people like were just like I have crazy stories from our first European event. I mean, we went to Europe. And I remember Tommy. Me and Tommy didn't get along very well back then. The European Tommy,
yeah,
he was trash talking a lot. And we went to the first event there, and he was like, "We're going to destroy you guys. You guys have no idea how to play the game." We were there and barely we dropped one map, and it was a stalemate CTF at the end, which was like super close. But it was just it's incredible to like see the mindset and how the game's changed to now, where most people play it like properly, quote unquote.
yeah,
Um, but yeah, like back then, it would take teams to kill us 3 or 4 times to get something done, and we were just killing once and get whatever we needed to be done. So yeah, obviously, it was definitely put us in an advantage compared to
yeah,
anyone else.
yeah. Very, very, very efficient. And moving on from just your playing career, how did you start working at Sledgehammer? Did you approach them? Did they approach you? How did that whole thing go down?
Yeah, so Jay Perrier is definitely the person I have to thank for that. For those who've been around competitive COD, Jay has been a Treyarch slash Activision guy for a long time, who's more or less kind of like behind the scenes a grandfather of competitive Call of Duty, a guy who's
Yeah,
always been super passionate about it and has gotten us a lot of the features that we needed in the early stage to gain interest, and a huge driving force behind like Codcaster and like score streaks being used in competitive, like just really all around really cool guy who's done a
yeah.
lot for us behind the scenes.
You know, we love Jay.
Um,
He's the best.
so 2 weeks after I got dropped, well actually we got second at COD Champs and Ghost, and I got dropped basically right after the event. They only played with me at PAX because like it was so close to the event, they couldn't replace me right away, I
Yeah,
guess. So 2 weeks after that happened, I was kind of contemplating what I really wanted to do. And then Jay hit me up and was like, "Hey, dude, like, would you be interested in coming and working game design? Because you have, like, I've like kind of what you said about the smart player thing. Like I know a lot about the game that most players, or not most, but other players don't, and I see it in a different way. And I was obviously the oldest player, so I had more life experiences than your 16-year-old at the time.
yeah,
So I was probably like, and I actually had a discussion with Michael Condrey, Greg Reisdorf, and Dr. Disrespect, who at the time worked at Sledgehammer Games during Black Ops 2 Champ. And they had discussions with me about the game, and they're like I didn't know at the time, but they were there talking to us because they were getting ready to make Advanced Warfare. So they were very much into the competitive aspect as well. Obviously, with Doctor being a huge competitive guy,
yeah,
they came to the event and started asking pros questions, and I had a huge discussion. It was almost like it's almost like an introduction and an interview with them that I had without really knowing it.
yeah,
So they probably hit up Jay, and then Jay hit me up, and then I started talking to these guys about 2-3 weeks after I got dropped, and I was like, this sounds like a cool experience. So yeah, they kind of hit me up, and I was like super into it. At first, it was meant to be kind of a more of a what's the word, like a trial period, like just me coming in to help to ship Advanced Warfare. Like I was going to come in there for 4 months, and I was going to help him ship out the game, and then we were kind of like going to talk after that, see if I like doing it, and then if I was also good at it, right? Because I
yeah,
could have been like both sides. Like I could have been good at it, but hated it and not want to do it further. So we didn't commit to anything, and they like there was no commitment on either side. I was just kind of an intern almost for 4 months,
yeah.
and I learned a lot about it. Like had so many discussions with all the developers and designers there, and it was super fun. I enjoyed all of it. So we stuck through it, and I was there for 5.5 years after that.
I mean, you were there for 5.5 years, so I think you liked it and you were really good at it. So
Yeah, I
that's really
helped.
good to see. That I mean, I'm sure you helped us a lot more than we know because you never really know what's going on behind the scenes. But just knowing you're there, I'm sure you helped the players and the whole community a ton. And they don't, no one even knows like how much you probably helped because you can't really like
Nope, and I can't tell.
quantify it. Exactly, you can't really say it
I mean,
either.
what I can say is like my I had two goals there. Obviously, is to make the best Call of Duty game possible. But like part of me, obviously being a competitive player, wanted to be someone on the inside that can help grow what we had.
Yeah,
Um, so like I didn't really have much of a chance to work on features for Advanced Warfare, but I did help build whatever rank play we had at the time. And then obviously the World War II was like the only game that I was there fully. I was there from start to finish. So like rank play,
Yeah.
World War II, Codcaster, like all those things I was kind of there to help drive. And then most of my technical side was like the weapon stuff. So like art people and engineers would create weapon art, and I would put it in the game, and then I would tune it to try and make it realistic. With like obviously gamers don't see it that way, but like developers see it. The game, like you're trying to create something that's realistic and immersive as well as plays well.
Yeah.
So I did a lot of World War II research on the weapons that were in the game, and I would try and tune them to where they would make sense with what they actually were, and then what they make sense with the game, and then try and make everyone happy, which is basically impossible.
No, I always look back at the World War II game like it's a literal documentary made into a video game because it was so accurate. The maps were dark, everything was on fire and destroyed. I think that game catches a lot of flack because the casual audience didn't really enjoy multiplayer as much. But for competitive, I think that game was amazing. One of the best competitive games we ever had. Hardpoint played really well. Search and Destroy was incredible. Probably the second best Search and Destroy game we've had since Call of Duty Ghost, in my opinion. And of course, they had ranked play, the best ranked play system ever.
Hey, you said the best one.
Oh, by far, it's not even close. Like everyone knows just how good the ranked play system was. Like we've seen so many players come in from that were grinding that are now in the pro league, like a BZ, Sib, Hydra, Mac, Nero. Like there's just so many people. And I personally think that's one of the biggest things that's missing in Call of Duty. Like if we just had a rank play system so people can not only discover competitive, but people's talent can be discovered through that rank play system and then potentially have a career. And it just builds, it just keeps on going because more players are going to find out. They're going to want to go pro. The community is going to grow and it's just going to take us to a lot of good places. But I want to get your thoughts on this.
Segues into your next question.
Yeah, it definitely segues. What do you think could improve the state of Call of Duty right now? If you can do a couple things, what would you say is the biggest things that need to be addressed?
I mean, I think rank play is number one. Like I don't see one game out there that's successful on esport front that doesn't have rank play. There's so many reasons why. Like having a place where the general audience can compete in the same game modes and settings that the pros do. The pros having something to play on that they can create content around, and that's fun, where they can play other players of similar skill level, like a good rank play. Like I'll just use World War II as a basis because that's the one to help create. But the mindset was create something the casual audience is going to enjoy playing at the base because it's like they'll play against players at their own skill level. So it's very much skill-based matchmaking.
Yeah.
So I'm never going to have an experience where I'm playing against players that are better than me unless I get better myself. Create an environment where the pros enjoy playing it because at the same level, the less skilled community is going to play. They're going to play against each other a lot. So like it's almost like playing unorganized eights quickly. Like I get on, I want to warm up, I'll play rank play, I'll probably get a BZ, Simp, and all those other guys in it because I'm ranked the same they are. And then thirdly, which to me is the most important part that people seem to forget, is the fact that it gives aspiring players a chance to play against professional players. This is the most underrated aspect. Like you can see this with all the other communities, like League of Legends. I'll use League of Legends as the basis one. Like most of the pros play League of Legends to keep up with their technical abilities. And you see so many players you never heard of when you watch their streams play against them because they're good enough on the technical front to be at that level.
Yeah.
And it gives those guys something to aspire from. And that to me is just something it's not easy to make. Everyone thinks it's easy to make. It's not. I mean, at the core, it's kind of simple, but there's so many intricacies in game development that kind of go into something. But definitely something. Rank play is for sure number one. I'd say, to me personally, like, and this is not necessarily like a game thing, but improving the state of COD, like we need unity as a community. There's so many different like opinions being thrown around, negativity, like everyone needs to like stop and understand that none of this is helping us. Like we should be working to provide, yes, the best playing field for ourselves, but also the best playing field from a viewership standpoint. Like us playing the game, and let's say we were to like take like the GA thing is a whole different discussion.
Yeah.
But let's say we were just stripped down the game to literally only playing with one gun, which we did in Black Ops 1. It's probably like the most boring game to watch, just because of the stance that there's no ability to strategize. Everyone's using the same thing. It works for Halo to some, but they have power weapons. They have different things to make it work. But for COD, to me, it's just not fun to watch.
Yeah.
And our goal, like we're a spectator sport. Everyone needs to understand that quickly. Like we are literally there to entertain. If we don't entertain, and we're being paid all this money to not entertain,
money.
then no sponsors, no money, no interest, we're dead. So like this is something that I really think like we need to unify as a community a little more and stop being so negative about things. Like I get it's not all sunshine and rainbows. We don't have the things that we feel we should have. I understand that. We did a lot better with a lot less back when I started playing.
Yeah.
So to me, it's like that's probably the biggest second thing that we just need to like get around. And it's hard because obviously a lot of the guys have been there for a long time and they want more, which is honestly respectable. Like I'm not saying you shouldn't want more, but us being negative and just going talking down about things is just not going to help it. It's just
Oh
literally
yeah.
we're just shooting ourselves in the foot.
No, definitely. And I think one of the things that is also hurting it for the players that have been playing for a long time is that they've been to these meetings, they've done these things. And then sometimes when stuff don't get changed, they just get discouraged where they're like, oh, nothing's going to ever change. Like it's always going to be like this. And so that just keeps going down the spiral of negativity. And that's actually going to get us nowhere. No matter how bad or good the game is, you just want to see it improve for the future generations and make it a career that people can do for 10, 20, 30 years from now. So it's definitely something we got to work hard to not be so bitchy about everything, because it is hard. Like there's a lot of messed up stuff in the game, even just right now. But if we're going to send that to the proper channels and have the right people hear it, and it might not get fixed instantly in the next couple of months, but who knows? It can make next game better, and then that game gets better. The game after that gets better, and it just makes for a better community in the future. So I definitely think that's what's needed. But you were there. Oh wait, go ahead.
Add one more thing to that, like, and this is kind of where everything else is coming on about. Like, this is kind of not secretive information, but it's just from my stance, my personal opinions from what happened when I worked at Sledge. Like the interest in making the competitive community great from the dev standpoint is not missing. Like everyone wants, like people want the best for us. Like they're not there. Like even though it may seem like it's not sometimes, like they want to help us. I think it's just from a priority level, esports for COD isn't where it needs to be at. It's like there's like obviously these game makers and Activision are all pushing for we're still making a yearly game, which is not easy. Like a lot of people are like, oh, they just reskin this game. It's not that hard, but in reality, it's really not, dude. It's like there's so much going on to make a game the way it is and to look the way it is and to play the way it does. It's not easy. So like at the end of the day, like the one thing I will advocate and be on the side of from a community standpoint is that I feel like we're put on the back foot a little bit. Like we are not the main interest with how the league is now and how we've invested all this, like all these teams invested these large amounts of money. Like I feel like we deserve now to be kind of somewhat of a priority for them in the development cycle, which to me would help us get the things we need and to start the year the way we want to start it. Yeah. Because like lastly, I would say like the worst thing about this is something people forget a lot. Like COD Champs used to be in April.
It was a marketing tool.
Yeah, but in reality, like the interest of the game was still very high. Like we'd play our first event in like December, a month after the game come out, and then everything to that point, the COD Champs was like we're playing our season then. Now, and then we have like obviously the end of the year would kind of suck because like after that we're kind of like there's still tournaments, but like we're looking forward to the next game, right? Because like COD Champs is over. But in reality, like now we start 3.5, 4 months after the game comes out, 3 months I'd say, and then we play for the same amount of time after. It's just we pushed that amount back.
Yeah.
So it's just to me there's like there's some disconnect there that I wish could be a little different. Like I think getting interest from the casuals is something we need. COD still has the most amount of players that play the game, or at least buy the game from year to year basis. I don't know about if play the game anymore is a thing, but there's definitely a large potential audience out there that could be interested if we do play our cards right with that.
Yeah, no, definitely. I think everyone agrees. Tournaments need to be sooner because it gives the players something to do, the pros, the challengers, the community something to watch and look forward to build up those storylines. And then that gets the most casual fans, because after they play Call of Duty for like a couple weeks or even a month, if they don't like the game, they're out of there. And but if the game is fun and they learn about competitive that quick, they might just stick around and they might be a pro player, or they might help support a team, which is going to help the league keep going and running. So I hope that next season, hopefully, that the season will start very, very soon after the game release, because that even if like everything isn't perfect with the maps or there's some bugs and the issues, it will be annoying, but I think it will be better for the whole community and the growth of it if it does start earlier. So that is something that we need. One of the many things we need. And then after you got to get out of your developer bag now, and now you're going back into the coaching mindset, because you were there at Sledgehammer for 5.5 years, you said?
Yeah, 5.5 years, correct.
Then how did you make your way back into the competitive Call of Duty community by becoming the coach of Dallas Empire?
So yeah, so this about a year before I actually started. So I'd say this is like, well, Modern Warfare was 2020,
2020, I
almost a
believe.
20. Yeah, so end of 2019. So I'd say like early 2019 is when Stro first reached out about potentially, like, he was like, basically the league was kind of starting to be a thing
Yeah.
with him behind the scenes. And obviously I worked with Stro a good amount. I was on Envy for the last year and a half, 2 years of my career. And he started reaching out to me about the potential of coming back and doing something. It wasn't necessarily going to be a coach. I think at the time, the first thing he reached out about was being the GM. And it's something that I was like, yeah, that could be cool. But at the time, I wasn't sure about. And actually, the month before he hit me up was when I first started about my, at the time, fiance, about potentially moving away from the Bay Area, because there's just, like, I never, like, the reason I left Sledge was never because of the actual job, was just because the Bay Area is so expensive to live
Yeah.
in. And the amount of money I was making was great for living anywhere else in the world, but in the Bay Area, I was basically just scraping by.
Yeah.
And it's just like, we looked at it from a business standpoint and a living standpoint. Like, one of our goals was to buy a house, and we just kind of noticed that was never going to be feasible to do out there. So like, when he hit me up about it, it just like struck as like, yeah, this could be cool. We could go to Texas. Texas housing is really cool. There's no state tax. Like, the potential for growth is so much bigger. So, and obviously, like, we started going back, and I started going back for with Hastro about it. And I like started potentially saying, like, it could be, coaching could be kind of cool. Like, I still enjoy the game very much, and I still think I have the mind for it. I've also, at something that I learned the most at Sledge that helped me into coaching is my ability to communicate things a little better.
Yeah.
When I was a player, it was kind of hard to deal with. But I learned a lot about the kind of corporate mindset, and did a lot of like these team building experiences, and just learn how to talk to people a lot better from a work environment standpoint. So kind of describe that. And yeah, I just came into a role, and then the only reason I started so late, I started like end of February, was the visa situation, because obviously I'm still a Canadian. I need a new work visa.
Yeah.
So yeah.
That's one thing I definitely need to work on. Communication. I feel like when you're a gamer like that, it kind of gets you held back, because in other jobs and stuff, you have to be able to communicate without getting like mad, or you have to be very respectful.
Exactly.
Because if you're not respectful, you're getting fired, and they're gonna let you go. So that's definitely something I need to work on for sure. But then you came back and you joined right before the LA event in Modern Warfare, right before like COVID hit, right at the end of February.
Literally, yeah. Like, the day I moved to Dallas was the day COVID really became a thing, which is kind of crazy.
Yeah, I was living
But
in
yeah.
New York at the time. It was insane to just experience
It was
that.
wild.
Yeah, it was crazy. But the league moves to online, and we're lucky enough to even be able to still have a league and be playing online and competing in tournaments. And your team just kind of took off. Like, what would you say is like, what was like the biggest factor of your team's success?
I mean, I think it's the mold that we had. Like, Crim6 and Clay were very much like coaches, players, when, like,
Yeah.
I mean, even while I was there, but before I was there too. We had a like young player like Shotzi, who's been a Halo guy, who also played Call of Duty, obviously. But we had like a lot, like, I think as a team, fundamentally, there's a lot of learning to do that was very much driven by Clay and Crim. And then I came in to kind of put the cherry on top and really help drive communication between the players. And then obviously towards the end of the year, I had much more of a say into like strategy, because I learned the game. Like, obviously, I
Yeah.
came in kind of dry. I was still working at Sledgehammer. I was watching, but I wasn't really like watching to that point. Like, being involved in the process is very different than just being outside and watching it. So yeah, I think I really kind of helped communication wise at the start, and then came in towards the end of the year. The last few events, I said, helped a lot more strategically, figure things out, and really make sure that we were prepared as a team to go into champs. And champs was always the goal. I mean, for me as
Yeah.
a coach, I still always the goal. Like, winning all these side events is great, but if you don't win the big one, to me, it's not as a happy year. I could
Yeah.
go on. I could have went on last year without winning any of the regular events. If we went on champs, I would have considered it a successful year. So yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, of course, everyone loves to win events, but no one really remembers the events you've won unless it's champs. Like, when people look back on
You won the
events,
London home series in Modern Warfare.
yeah, like no one's thinking about that 10 years from now. They're telling their family about the champs they won, the rings they won, the $125,000 or the $200,000 they won. Because like, even with like OpTic in AW, they won 9 out of the like 15 or 14 events. But my team won champs that year, so everyone's just like, yeah, they won the ring. That's the most important. It doesn't matter what OpTic did. And they did the same thing in Black Ops 3. They were one of the best teams, if not the best team all year. Got the champs, got like 7th, 8th again. So it just goes to show how much people poor, like, what's it called? What were I looking for? How much importance they put into the champs event, and that's just the one that's always remembered for everyone. So
I mean, it's the same thing in any professional sport. Like the championship
yeah,
is what people care about. Like you could win the regular season. You like the Golden, didn't Golden State Warriors win like something like 79-10 or something like that one year, or something crazy where they just like obliterated the competition during the year, and then lost in the finals to LeBron and them.
yeah.
I don't know if that was the year or not.
I think that was when they got 1-3 came back on. I think someone on the stream will
Yeah,
know, but I think that was
yeah.
when they got almost super reverse sweeped.
But it's
That
like people talk about the records and whatnot, but they still lost. Like I
yeah.
mean, it's like people aren't gonna like they'll remember the record, but they'll remember who won the championship at the end of the year. So it's just yeah, definitely winning champs was a crazy, crazy way to come back into it. Finally getting a ring because I never got a ring playing because I
You were
got second
close.
twice.
Yeah, you were
It's
super close.
I sniffed it. Arguably should have won it the first year, but things just didn't go our way.
Yeah.
And then yeah, it was just it was a really really cool feeling, something to share. That my not a regret. The only downfall to it is that we played online for it. It would have been so much cooler to be there in person, live that moment with fans and whatnot.
Yeah.
Definitely something that I wish we had done, but I mean, we won anyway, so it is what it is.
Yeah, I mean, it would be great to experience, but what was it like that $200,000 or $150,000 you won? That's very real. That is very very real, even if it's online or land. But yeah, it had to have been an amazing feeling, and then like just going into your first year back, you win that, so you're probably just feeling really good. You're just like, I just came back coaching, already a world
Really
champion coach, and going into the Cold War season when it went back to like 4v4, what was like your guys' game plan as a team to like with the roster change that happened right after you won?
It sucked. I mean, like it was literally the day after we won that
Yeah.
they announced the whole 4U tour thing. It was like, I mean, give us a break, dude. Like let us appreciate the moment a little bit.
Yeah.
And it's like there's not one glaring player that was like a loose end on our team. Like everyone contributed in their own way. And like some teams may have had one guy who just didn't do so well during the year and then got carried by the rest of the team, but I felt like every single one of our players contributed in a way that was like conducive to what created the championship winning team. So yeah, it was awful. I mean, ultimately we like I had my opinion on who should have been replaced, but ultimately the players as a team, like I'd say mostly the players had kind of their decision to make on who they felt. And granted, like the situation was kind of where like we had three young players. We had Hugh, Shotzi, and Illy, who were kind of like a trio in a way, where just
Yeah.
like they're kind of the future of the team. So like we looked at it as like, well, like Crim and Clay were going to be ones, and the young players just kind of made the decision at that point. And yeah, I mean, Crim and Clay, I honestly think those two belong together. Like they're the experience we had last year during Cold War without having Clay and having Crim alone. Like to me, they complement each other so well, and I feel like that's one of the reasons why I think New York's going to be successful this year. I think Crim and Clay are just like Clay's like the only alpha to Crim in the community, in my opinion. Like, and it's just from a team standpoint, I think those two just work very well together and able
Yeah.
to kind of they're almost like a bouncing board. Where if they're alone, I think they're just a little too controlative. And I think they're gonna be great this year together. So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like that with that situation was really weird because it was right after champs, and there was no real right or wrong decision. Like you could have got rid of like pretty much any player, and everyone would have been like, yeah, I mean, all the players on the team are they're all around the same skill level. So it was just one of those situations where you just kind of have to do it and then hope for the best because everyone was so smart and talented on that team. It's like there's no bad players, so it's not like you could just easily replace someone. So I can only imagine how stressful that was.
Lost no matter who we dropped.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, so yeah, it was awful. It was not fun.
Yeah. And then you guys went through the Cold War season. Didn't get the win, but you had a lot of second place, third place finishes, which is still really well. What do you think went wrong looking back on that season to like where you didn't achieve that championship?
Yeah, I mean, I don't really want to go into too much.
Yeah.
I think a lot of it was just kind of like disagreements on the team front, like kind of what we talked about earlier about being on the same page.
Yeah.
We had a lot. I mean, we had a lot of issues during the early stage of the year. Like we had to make a roster change that didn't help. We learned very quickly that as a team, like we had players in mind we wanted to go after, and a lot of those, like the option we ended up getting was Reese, which was a great option, but it just came in so late in the year that we had to like building to where we wanted to get to as a team just came in like later stages, and then we did well our first event at Reese, but then we started clashing a lot towards the end of the year, which made it very difficult to be where we want to be towards the end of the year. And
Yeah.
it's like I think we're never really that good of a search team last year. Strategically, I think we were okay, but just in game decision wise, like the game was so weird last year search wise.
It was.
It was almost like playing TDM because we didn't have like smokes and snipers. Like there
Yeah.
wasn't really strategy to build around. It was kind of like, hey, let's take these routes and try and bum rush this, and if it works, it works. So yeah, it was odd. It was, let's just put it this way, it was an odd year. My first year was definitely better than my second year from a coaching standpoint.
Yeah.
It was just a lot easier, and things went a lot smoother. But I think you need the good and the bad. I mean, I learned a lot from last year. I'll tell you that right away.
Yeah.
And with the roster this year, I think we have found a really good place to be team wise, and I think just motivational, mentally, I think companionship, like friendship levels, I think are just like on the next level this year, and I'm really excited to go on and do what we got to do for OpTic Texas. I even got the hoodie. I literally just got it like an hour ago.
Hey, love that. No, wait, I was actually about to ask you how like the whole transition went down from Dallas to OpTic Texas. Like, when did you know, and then when did like it get officially? When did you know it was like officially happening?
Yeah, so I heard I heard from my bosses like Strode that it was potentially going to be a thing. I'd say 2 months before the end of the year last year. Obviously didn't share that with any of the players.
Yeah, of course.
And then I think literally right as the season was ending, we learned that it was going to be I learned that it was actually going to be a thing, basically like right after champs. I can't remember specifically. And then the roster thing was going to be like we went. There was a lot of discussions about what the roster should be like, and then it ended up being what it is now. And there's a lot of early discussions with the whole team to make sure everyone was like there was a lot of ground rules set to not go through the same issues that we had this year early on.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, we're still early in the year. We haven't even started competing yet. But I think there's a lot of understanding. The players I'd say, are extremely motivated to do what we got to do to win. And that, to me, that's, as a coach, is the most fun thing to do, because I show up to my job every day and there's a process we're going through and everyone's into it. And I felt like last year that was something we were lacking. So it's definitely a kind of an eye-opening experience that's for the better. And I'm super excited. I mean, personally, obviously most of the good moments in my career came when I was on OpTic. So for me, it's super exciting to be back with the green wall and have all the fans behind me and come back to a place where I started. So it's exciting.
And then I was going to ask, what are you most excited for with this team? But you answered that, and then being on the green wall again. But that must be just like a really cool feeling from being on that team for what was like over like a decade ago, like when you were competing in like MW3 with OpTic.
Yeah, it was like Black Ops, or no, it wasn't. It was ended in Black Ops 2, so it was like Black Ops 1 and Modern 3. So yeah, it was like 2012 and 2013. So yeah, it's literally 10 years ago. Holy shit.
That is insane.
We're getting old, Dylan. We're getting old.
I just turned 25. You're telling me.
Oh, you're not old yet. You're young as hell.
But 25, it's like that's like dog years in Pro Call of Duty though.
No, dude, I stopped competing when I was 25, but now it's because people thought I was old and I had no hands anymore. Now players are playing like Crim and Claire, like what, 28, 29, almost 30.
That's true.
And they're still competing.
No, yeah. I mean,
you're good, brother.
Hopefully. I don't want to lose the reaction time too quick.
You won't. That's dude. That's the one thing to me that like I personally stopped competing. I could have honestly been on another team after I stopped playing and I got dropped for the last time. But I think it's more so the motivational aspect and wanting to do what you're doing every day. That's more difficult as you get older. Like, you don't really lose the skill, the mindset, like all that. Like, to me, if anything, you get better with time. And like pro athletes typically peak in their like late 20s, early 30s. So it's like we're all here talking about reaction time when pro athletes reach their peak in their later stages. Like, it's like, I don't know. Like it's not necessarily a thing, and it shouldn't have been a thing back then, but it was a thing because I was the only old guy and I wasn't that great. So
they just put that out there.
But yeah, it's just like, I think from a team standpoint, like just you were saying, like my favorite thing about the team this year, it's not just about being on OpTic. I think it's just more so like I'm gonna enjoy my job winning or losing every day this year. I feel like because I feel like we have 4 players that are on the same page mentally, that are 4 players that want to achieve the same goals, and 4 players that are just willing to do what it takes to win. And when we lose, like it's going to happen. Like everyone loses matches. It's going to happen. We're not going to go the whole year without losing a match.
Oh yeah.
We're actually going to learn from it. We're going to be discussing it.
Yeah.
We're not going to look at it as a negative experience. Obviously not being the positive experience, but we're going to treat that as what it is and learn from it. And that's the biggest thing. Like this is kind of cliche, but I had my thing when I competed was winning is teaching, losing is learning.
Yeah. I mean, it holds true to this day.
To this day, and anything in life, bro. It's like if you don't learn from your bad experiences, you're never gonna have better good experiences.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, you guys are looking pretty good this year. I like your whole roster. You're all great people. I actually love that team. But yeah, start a few arguments over there. Don't let it go too smoothly. Tell someone they're kill whoring a little bit too much, and just start a couple arguments for sure over there. Make it a little bit easy on the competition. Nah, but I think that's it for me so far. So I just want to say thank you very much for joining us. And would you be down to answer some questions from chat
Of course.
if they
I don't
have
have the
any?
chat up, so you'll have to ask it for me.
Okay, I got you. Chat,
One's up.
we're here with the living legend. So if you want to ask him a question, now is going to be the time because Rambo Waste time is very valuable, it's very expensive. It ain't cheap. It ain't cheap to get him on the show either. So if you want to ask a question, now's the time. Oh, man. That's pretty good. Whoa, those are 57 minutes since the stream started. So
When was your first event? What was your first ever
first
event?
ever event was a Black Ops 2 Anaheim. I just had my dad drop me off there. And
That's a
I found my team the day before the event started. It was
Oh, dang it.
Kalani, Fnatic, and Nihil.
No, I remember those guys.
Yeah, Kalani and Fnatic. There were some OGs.
Yeah. Yeah, OGs are sure.
Yeah, but they gave me an opportunity because I was just at home playing League of Legends on my little laptop. And I was still playing Black Ops 2 and Call of Duty a lot, but I just couldn't really like get into competitive. I didn't have a team. It was hard to find a team. And then they hit me up. I was like, yo, I'm down. And
Let's go.
I went there, played pretty well.
How'd you guys do? How'd you guys
We
do?
got 29th through 32nd, so not like
Hey, that's
terrible for like finding them the day before with no practice.
So who did you lose to? Who was the team to kick you out of the
Oh
tournament?
man, it was actually Miyagi, Slasher, Khalifa,
That's
and
awesome.
Strife.
That's awesome.
It was yeah. I heard a lot about that back then. They would always talk so much shit, but then we
Oh, yeah.
eventually teamed together in Ghost and made our little
awesome.
West Coast squad and terrorized everyone in the online tournaments with our Quad West host.
Yeah, I remember that.
All right. For the Codfather, how do you criticize or discipline players who need it?
It varies with different people. And this is one thing that I'll be completely honest about that I learned from the last 2 years is that there needs to be a ground set rule set in stone as the year starts. I'll literally say it out loud. Like, for example, I was very worried about finding players last year for being late or for not doing the things they needed to do to be successful or just not doing their jobs properly. Like finding is something that people see so negatively. But if you set in stone at the start of the season that if you do this, you are getting fined. I don't care what you do. This is a thing. Then those players have an easier time understanding and respect because there's a ground rule. Like there's a standard set at the start here, which is one of the things I did. Like as soon as we had a roster set and as soon as we knew the OpTic thing, we had a call where I literally had Hex and Stro in there to back me up. We discussed all the things that are going to happen this year if you don't do your job properly. So like just something to like set a ground rule on. And that to me is like, I'm not saying finding is the best way to handle things, but in general, like there needs to be something the player is worried about.
Yeah.
If there's a time where he doesn't feel compelled to get on or do things like this is your job. Like people need to understand that. And was there a part of the question? I forgot what the other one was.
I think what was it? Let me scroll back up and get it. Wait, wrong mouse. He said or discipline players who need it. So I guess it was just kind of what you said.
Yeah,
Like if someone,
aspect, sure,
yeah.
But like in general, like I think if you have like, especially these days, I feel like nobody in the league should ever be a hard person to work with on that front. Like, dude, this is your job. You're paid. Like all these guys are paid very well to do what they do. There is no reason you shouldn't be getting out of bed an hour or two before your scrim starts, warming up half an hour before, and just being there with good vibes to try and do your job the way you do it.
Yeah.
Like there's zero chance. So just something I learned from last year that isn't the case, but we changed that for the better this year.
And then next one from Chicken 2 Cent. He asks, how is Scump different today compared to back in the day? If he is different at all.
That is a good question. Honestly, not as different as I thought. I thought he was going to be like when we have discussions at team, he's more of a listener than a talker. Like he'll say his point if he has something to say, but he very rarely kind of starts a conversation about something. And that's kind of the way he was when we competed together. Obviously, I was kind of the main driving point talking wise, so he was very much open ears.
Yeah.
And that's just something that hasn't really changed for him. I feel like if anything, I think he just has more experience as a person, and obviously playing side, and he understands more like he's understanding how to treat his body. Like he's thinking of things he eats, thinking of how much sleeps he gets. Like his routine. Like he understands that like you're not invincible anymore because he's starting to feel those. Like he's 27 now.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's definitely I'd say if not, like I'd say he's basically the same dude. Like he's still super fun. His sense of humor is more or less the same. Like just a fun guy to be around, and yeah, definitely a vet.
Yeah.
A vet that's
A
still
vet,
competing
the
at a
oldest,
high level.
yeah,
Yeah,
the oldest SMG in the league right
yeah,
now.
literally. Yeah.
Followed up by me, the second oldest. You know,
It's like
we getting up there. And then another question from Avic Viper. He said, "What's the number one thing you watch when you're a coach in practice? Is it mostly the minimap, spawns, player routes, etc.?"
Yeah, I'd say in general the minimap tells me what I need to like. I'll watch player POV sometime, but my focus is very much on minimap. I want my team, and I'm sure Dylan can attest to this with his coaching staff, but like our job as coaches is very much to make sure our team is understanding of what the game's like. Like we have a bird's eye view what's going on. We can see all the maps. So like when players do certain things, the game reacts in certain ways. And our job is to figure out the best routes and best decisions these players can make to play the game and make it the easiest possible game they can play. And it's something that to me, like the most important thing, and this is not sharing secrets, but like the most important thing as a coach is that your team has the ability to win games when they're not playing their best.
Yeah.
And the only way to do that is to understand the game fully and make the right decision. Everyone understands what the right decision and wrong decision is in every scenario and stance of the game. So imagine like Call of Duty is a book. Each game has pages in that book. Some of those pages and chapters kind of transfer over to a new game, like bumping a player off a hill to push forward, or taking certain routes because your teammates like cross angles and stuff like that. But at the core, the new game, because of the new maps and how the game works, changes every year. Yeah. So our job as coaches is to write that book with our players and have discussions with our players to help them understand what things are going on and help them understand and help them do the things the best they can based on what the game's given them.
Yeah. That was a really very in-depth answer. If I was a coach, I'd be like, bro, why are you rotating over there? Stop holding a pregame. Sprint. Go. Like I'd be, what are you doing, you idiot? So yeah, Ray is definitely, I feel like I like listening to you talk. I don't know why. I've always liked listening to you talk, but I feel like it's just very, I feel like I'm learning
too much because I'm gonna be trash talking your ass this year, Dylan.
No. You would never. You never say mean things.
I actually, this is a fun story at Champs last year. I'm sure most people remember this, the raid hardpoint that we came back on Toronto to bring into the game.
Yeah.
Like I came out on stage and I yelled, bro. I was like, man, I lost it. I was like, I went from like sad to thinking we lost to just like straight up like I'm gonna go on stage and yell my ass off. And when I came back, I kind of yelled not towards the Toronto guys, but I yelled loud enough to where they can hear me say they can't close the series, and mostly because of what you guys did to them the previous event. And I was trying to get him back in that same mindset, but like I'm all for trash talk, bro. I love trash talking.
Yeah. I think it's
as long
good.
As it's not personal, like it's game related or like to the moment, it's cool, but like don't go after someone's like mom, for example, like people used to do back in the day.
Yeah.
Like who gives a damn what the mom's doing? But like if you're talking trash about the game or you're teabagging, shooting bodies, like to me that's all cool stuff. That's all fair game.
Yeah.
So expect some of that from me this year, Dylan. Just letting you know.
I love that. No, I don't think people should get mad over teabagging or shooting bodies. That's just part of the game, of course. But once it gets like personal, yes, then it's too far.
Yeah, that's
but
bad. No.
Everyone needs that healthy trash talk because there is healthy and good trash talk because it builds storylines, makes it fun to watch, makes more people more incentivized. So that is definitely a really good thing. So
it's a cool viewer experience and it's also a mental edge you can have on your opponent.
Definitely. So I'm gonna be lighting Ender's body up all season.
Do it.
All season.
Love it. You'll love it.
Only if we're winning though. So
as it should be.
Last question. Jay Watt asked, "What's Rambo's handicap in golf?"
I'm here. Let me pull it up. I'll pull it up and show you.
I personally don't know what that means, so you're gonna have to explain like on 5.
I'll give you the quick lowdown. So in golf, there's a par, which most of the time is 72. So when you play a golf course, actually I can't pull it up. I have to update the app, but when you play a golf course, there's like a mix between par 3s, par 4s, and par 5s. And the total amount of strokes to shoot even par is 72, which is not something a lot of players can obtain. It's pretty hard to do. So your hand, and then there's like the course has a rating. So like, let's say you play a golf course that's super easy, that's wide open and isn't very difficult. The course rating might be 69. So even though the par is 72, your handicap is going to be based off the course rating.
Okay.
So let's say I shoot 69, then my handicap will be 0. If I shot 70, then my handicap would be 1. Like you can kind of increment like that.
Okay.
So my handicap is the 8 rounds, my 8 best rounds of my last 20 rounds I played, my score compared to the course rating of the course I played on. Does that make sense?
Yeah. So pretty much the course has a rating. You go there, do your thing, whatever you get, you kind of have to like gauge off the course's rating.
Correct. So
Kinda.
like I'll put my score, like let's say like the last round I played, I shot 76 and the course rating was like 73. So like my course night, the number of handicap I got for that round was 2.6.
Mm.
And then the average of my the average of my best 8 rounds from my last 20 rounds total is going to give me my handicap index.
Yeah.
So like right now my handicap, I don't know if you can see this, my handicap index is 0.7.
Yeah.
So like this is basically saying like I average 0.7 less points than the course rating every time I go out and play.
Mm.
Or my 8, like my better rounds, I guess.
And this is
So this is pretty good. This is like way above average.
And sorry, I got one more question. This is for me. This is just for me because like I've seen so many people get into golf that are in the gaming community. What you're the best one, right? The best golf player
From I'd say the COD community.
from the game, a CoD community.
Pro,
Okay,
like, pro gaming community. Yeah.
pro gaming community. And
mean,
wait, is there
like
anyone
the
like?
the golf gaming club thing that we have? Like I have the lowest handicap there.
Yeah,
Shibby's pretty close. You remember Shibby?
yeah, of course, I love Shibby.
Shibby's like a 3 or a 4. Nate Shot's like a 10. And then I'd say there's like a few other guys like nothing. Jordan Gilbert, the CS pro.
Oh yeah. I've heard of him. I've heard of him.
He's like I think he's like a 2 or a 3 or a 4 as well.
Oh, okay.
So there's a couple of guys that can play. I'd say most players are not that great. They're like around the 15-20 mark, which is kind of where. Yeah, but that's the average golfer though. Like the average, I think the average handicap for a golfer is like 16, which is shooting like 90, which is kind of your typical guy. So yeah.
And what's like the most beautiful course you've ever played on?
Oof.
Or the most famous? I don't know.
I've never played Pebble Beach, but I've played the courses around it. So Spanish Bay and Spyglass Hill are 2 courses in Monterey. They're basically along the ocean, which is extremely beautiful and really cool to play.
Yeah.
Have you seen the movie American Pie: The Wedding?
No, I don't think so.
I
don't see that.
That's tragic. At least for those in the chat who have seen it, I played the golf course. It's called Half Moon Bay. They have the Ritz-Carlton there, a hotel literally on the ocean side, and they have 2 golf courses. And one of the scenes in that movie was filmed on that golf course, and I played there. So.
Yeah, I only have like 2 experiences with golf. I used to go to the driving range with my dad a lot, which was really, really fun to just try and hit the golf balls as far as they could go. And then the other time, my mom had tickets to a golf tournament that was close in California. That was like a really famous course, and I think Tiger Woods was playing. But I was like,
Pines?
I don't know what it was called, but I was like 8 or 9. And I didn't I'm 8 or 9 years old. I didn't care about golfing. So I just didn't, she kept asking we should go. I was like, no, I don't want to go. And I kept complaining. And yeah, she got really mad at me for it. I'm sure she could tell me what the tournament was, but apparently it was some big tournament that was out there.
What city was it in?
I don't remember what city.
Was it SoCal, NorCal?
SoCal.
SoCal? Was it in LA or was it
probably somewhere in the LA area, I assume.
Okay. If it was LA, maybe Riviera. I
don't know. I just know my mom was really mad at me because I didn't want to go because I was like 8 or 9. I didn't care about golf.
Yeah, I mean, golf is like, I mean, for me personally, it's just my sport, the sport that gets me outside, and it's a game you can never perfect. Like it's just so hard.
Yeah.
Like you're never really good at golf. You're just a little bit better than other people are, but you're never really good at the game unless you're just the best players in the world, which are very few. So yeah, it's just a really cool sport.
Yeah, and I've seen so many like famous athletes and just wealthy people in general start playing golf at older age. I know Canelo plays a lot on his free time when he's not boxing. And then even Steph Curry plays a lot. So
yeah, he's good. He's good too. He's like a scratch golfer. Scratch is when I say scratch golfer, is someone who's like around the 0 mark of handicap. And he actually played a few Corn Ferry events, which are professional, like the stepping stones to the PGA Tour. He played 2 or 3 of them, I think. So yeah, he's a really good player.
My mom said the tournament was Lake Sherwood in Thousand Oaks.
Okay, yeah.
Lake Sherwood.
That's nice. That's a nice course.
Yeah, she had tickets, but me being a young kid, I was complaining. I didn't want to go, and then she got mad.
That's funny.
We'll have to get out there at some point for sure and start learning the ropes. But thank you very much for joining us. I appreciated it. I think the whole chat and everyone that's watching and listening loved it because I had a great time. Once again, just thank you so much for taking the time out of your day.
Of course, anytime, brother.
All right, yo, it's been real.
Good luck this year.
Good luck this year. Don't wait. What? You're coming for me? All right, don't give the boys too much help. Start a couple arguments here and there. Make it tough on them for sure. All right, thank you, Ray. I appreciate you.